Hi guys, welcome back. It's been a little bit. Sorry we didn't have our voice all set up there. I'm a little bit throaty there. Yeah, so let's see. Going over everything. We are playing the event. Going ahead and going through everything. I missed out on Monday. I had a lovely date and just had to go do that instead. But I'm very glad to be back here. Unfortunately, I will have another one on Thursday, so we won't be doing a backup stream until sometime around Saturday or Sunday. But nonetheless, we have a lot of interesting stuff to work with. I see a Xenon Fanatic here, a Cripple, a Victor's Cry, a Topaz Drake, which is actually not a terrible 7-drop, and an Inspire Obedience, which is also not a terrible 7-drop. Going very, very late in the game might be a little bit silly, but it could potentially be pretty worth it. Hate Cleaver is amazing here, actually. Like, there's a lot that we can do with this, especially considering this card works very, very well with Shadowland's Tyrant, so I think that might actually be a thing that we might play with. Alright, so the previous pack, since we didn't have voice, included a couple of new cards. The main interesting elements being this Outland's Brute, which I don't think is going to play, but is a pretty good card overall for draft sealed type events. We got a decent amount of green stuff in case we want to go back into the sort of green aggressive strategy. There's actually a ton of good cards that we got in this pack for that color. And we have a Dragon's Breath in blue, which is definitely coming in. Yeti Snowchucker, which is maybe coming in. And a Threaten and a Skeeter, which I think are both pretty interesting options. Cripple, I'm still not really into it. Like, I just don't think that we need that kind of removal, but we might run something along those lines if we really, really feel like it. I think the Skeeter's really fascinating. We do have a decent amount of cards that we can put on the Skeeter, namely Morningstar. Hoof Slash helps out a little bit. Sleeping Drought is not anything crazy, but we have some amount of, like, actual tricks that we can throw in here. So I think Skeeter, Hate Cleaver, Dragon Breath, maybe Sabotage at this point. And like trying to go for something along those lines could actually get us a lot to play with. We'll throw in all of the like other cards that we've been playing around with that we haven't actually included lately. Swindle is a little bit much probably. Stampede Driver has potential probably. Like there are a lot of cards here that we haven't really quite decided on whether or not we're going to keep them. So we're going to go ahead and throw these in and see what our pool looks like. Just get all the good stuff back in here and we're going to make cuts again. As far as green stuff goes, I think we're still pretty much out on green. A Marn Archaeologist gives us some potential for a time comeback, but I still didn't find like a lot in terms of Sentinels or ways to support the deck. I would say that there is a lot of good yellow here, like Trailmaker, Amber Acolyte, and a Marn Archaeologist all together make it much easier to do 3-color good stuff in time. The main thing, though, is that we'd be passing up on a lot of good stuff from other colors, so it's pretty tricky to do it that way, especially with the decent amount of red stuff that we have that's actually quite good. Cards like Backpacker's Machete aren't like necessarily the best cards in the world, but I think they're actually good enough that we're probably not into yellow here. But we'll keep an eye on it. There may actually be something that comes in to sort of make that happen, so we'll see where we're at. We'll see where we're at. Okay. We do have Stone Shaker. That is a card that I'm still pretty not sold on, despite it discounting several of our bigger cards. I think at the moment we're trying to keep it kind of low to the ground, and if we can keep it low to the ground, then that's going to be a lot better for us. Cards like Dragon Breath, Yeti Spy, like Yeti Snowchucker in particular seems really interesting. I don't know about Wild Rider or Freewing Glider or Jotun Cyclops, but they're all cards that we haven't really paid enough attention to, I think, so we'll take a look at them and we'll see if there's anything that we can do with them. Okay, so right away I think Swindle is out. I'm just not into being that deep into like the late game. We have a lot of good stuff in the early game that we don't really need to play around with, so those cards are probably going to go ahead and take a hike. Sabotage is interesting now that we have some amount of like really good bombs. Like throwing Sabotage out to sort of get rid of stuff early and make it more capable for us to actually get the later stuff could be really interesting, and there's a decent amount of potential for that to be the right call. Brash Shorthorn and Flashy Duelist both rely on me being sort of an early game focused deck. Flashy Duelist in particular is doing a lot of the same thing that Yeti Snowchucker is doing now. I think the Unseals are definitely out. So we're going to keep playing around here. We've got Jotun Cyclops for blue. Last that we checked, blue was sort of our splash color. Like, it's the least important of our colors. We only have we only have to get one blue going to get Mistveil Drake out. So the ability to sort of like just ditch Jotun Cyclops here and maybe go a little bit less heavy on the blue with like Yeti Spy and Cyclops out, I think that's still probably the right plan. I do like Jotun Cyclops a lot. I do think that Yeti Spy is actually very good, but like trying to keep it a little bit more focused seems like the better way to go. All right. Yeah, Mistveil Drake and Sindok are pretty super important. I do think that Stampede Driver is pretty reasonable. +1/+1 Overwhelm is quite nice, but the main thing about it is that there aren't that many cards that we actually want to give Overwhelm to. Like, I have Ruin Crawler Yeti, which is okay, Rebel Sharpshooter, which is actually quite good. Yeah, I think Stampede Driver might actually make the cut, and it is 1 blue, so it's a possible card that we haven't really considered here. There's not that many things at 5, and sitting a blue card at 5 is really not that big a deal. Okay. So, that being said, we're still on sort of the brash, shorthorn, flashy duelist play in the early game, which I'm not sure how much I love. I think cutting Sabotage is probably still right. That card is reasonably useful, but it's not as good as Devastating Setback, and generally if we can just like sort of up the quality of our cards, that's going to help out quite a bit. Skeeter seems like a reasonable include as a 3-drop. We have a decent amount of 3-drops in general, so it's kind of hard to sort of decide whether or not we want to keep going on this very, very, very good train. Like, Skeeter's great, Rebel Sharpshooter is good, Ravenous Thornbeast and Sharpshooter are both doing excellent things together, but Thornbeast isn't really doing like an exceptional amount in comparison to Sharpshooter. 3-drop 3/3s are just like bread and butter though. They're really, really solid. Nocturnal Observer's doing a lot for us. Hoof Slash is a pretty good trick. Devastating Setback is insane. Clan Hero is just really, really powerful. Like we're once again just super flush on 3s. And so that's something that we might want to play around with a little bit. I don't know. As far as things go, I think I'm kind of up on Stampede Driver, and I'm trying to figure out what it is that I want to cut in order to make that happen. I really like Snowchucker as a trigger for Clan Hero and all of the Spark abilities. This card carries weapons pretty well, and it is like just a really, really good aggressive card. We need a few more of these to push damage for Sindok, and that was one of the things that the deck was really, really lacking in last time around, where we just didn't have enough stuff early to sort of make things work. Ruin Crawler Yeti has been fairly minimal here. Like, I actually don't think that he's super good here, and he might be the 3-drop that we want to cut. The kill an enemy attachment thing is very, very useful, and his overall like aggressive Yeti ability has been really cool, but he doesn't have a lot of synergy in the deck, and honestly I've been pretty bummed out by him. Like, he hasn't really helped a lot. He's been killed quite a bit. He's not been very good on defense. Like, I think I just want more stats for value, and Skeeter might actually do a little bit more here in enabling some Hate Cleaver play and some Shadowlands Tyrant play, playing around with weapons a little bit more. I kind of like that. I think we're gonna go for that. Okay, we're currently at 19 power, and we have a 7-drop and a 9-drop, and then our actual other top is just like 5s. So we could probably go down to 18 if we wanted to get really, really tricky. Maybe cut like a Primal Sigil, or cut this Time Sigil, which got added for some reason. That's probably the card. I think 18 power is actually where I'm supposed to be at. That leaves 4 cards to cut, and that means that basically the 4 worst cards here out of curve are probably the ones to go. Sharpshooter seems too strong. Ravenous Thornbeast doesn't really sort of play with the rest of the deck the way that I want him to, so he's maybe the 3-drop to go. I think I like Skeeter. I like Skeeter and Thornbeast very similarly. I think Thornbeast might actually be out, which is really weird to say, but there's just so much at 3 right now. And I really want my weapons, I want my Devastating Setback, I want my Clan Heroes, so I think Thornbeast is probably going to take a dive. We're going to go ahead and cut that card out and see how that feels. Stampede Driver, you're still pretty hard to play. Like, you are a tricky card. I don't know about you. Sleeping Drought is also a tricky card, one that I do like quite a bit and actually has quite a bit of cool like play to it, but I don't think it's super necessary here, and it's very similar to Unseal in the way that it sort of generates its effect. So I think we can maybe go ahead and cut that card, and that'll give us like a little bit more leeway to play basically more units, and that'll be really nice. Okay, so yeah, our unit count is as always kind of low, so cutting spells might be the way to go, cutting attachments. We can take a look and see what's least useful. Twin Barrel, Magma Javelin, Morningstar. Magma Javelin is, I think, too good not to cut. Joral's Frostkin seems pretty solid. Yeah, I'm really not sold on cutting anything at this point. We've got 2 more cards that we want to go through, and it's going to be a little bit hard. I'd say 17 power would be too little. Far too little. So we got to make some decisions here. Hoof Slash is surprisingly good and actually works well with Skeeter and a couple of other tricks. But if we were to cut it, I probably wouldn't feel too bad about my life. It is good removal. Jump Kick is solidly useful. Like, I actually even value this higher than Hoof Slash. So I think that, like, if we cut one, it's going to be Hoof Slash. But Hoof Slash also does some cool things with Twin Barrel, which is another card that I really want to play around with. I do want all of my removal first, so I think this spell is the card that has to get cut. But that is really, really strange to do. Like, it just feels strange. That's okay. The last cut should feel a little bit strange. Thank you for the host, Dodger Cole. Good stuff. Ancient Defenses is a 4-power torch. I don't know if you... Yeah, the 4-power torch is incredibly powerful. Like, no, this card is absolutely absurd. You want it in any deck that you can run it in. Like, if you can put the red in there, it's more valuable than Twin Barrel by a pretty large margin. It's more valuable than most of the other cards in my deck, actually. Like, it's very much on par with Extinguish, with, not quite with Mortar, but that's okay. And it's pretty on par with, it's definitely on par with Magma Javelin and some of the other cards that we've got here. We could cut Magma Javelin. That card is, it is okay removal, but it is not like the strongest removal. And it seems like we're kind of heavy on 4-drops. Like, we have Morningstar here, which is fairly good. I don't want to cut any more units, so I think if we cut Magma Javelin, I'd probably feel okay with that. That way we're running Mortar, which is the better Magma Javelin. Yeah, I don't feel too bad about that. That seems right. Alright, let's give it a shot. No, I highly recommend that you run Ancient Defenses when you can, especially since, like, the buff to Sentinels is actually quite good. Not that we're running Sentinels, but even if it's just a 4-power torch, 4-power burn is actually just really, really good. Like, those kinds of spells are gonna win you games. Ancient Defenses is not a card that served us poorly. Magma Javelin can serve you poorly because it's a removal card that sometimes doesn't get to function as a removal card. Like, there are times when you get it and it's the top deck and it's just, it feels really bad. But yeah, we're going to play around with this. Okay. So, the power is still a little bit icky, and that is one thing that I really wish that we'd gotten a little bit more help with in Omens, but that's okay. We're going to redraw here. Any sort of Skycrag banner would have been really nice, but such as it is. Okay, so Skeeter, Backpacker's Machete, Shadowlands Tyrant. This is actually kind of perfect. We don't necessarily get to play Shadowlands Tyrant right away, but we do get Skeeter into Backpacker's Machete, which is pretty fun. That's the kind of like 3-drop curve that we really, really want, seeing as we're not terribly aggressive. Go ahead and play our Shadow here, and then we'll play our Primal, and we'll play our Skeeter, and we'll hope that Skeeter doesn't die, because we really want to put the Backpacker's Machete on it.
Take your positions, Valkyrie!
Alright. We could Devastating Setback here, but I think I want a Skeeter first, then Machete. And if I Machete, then I'll be able to set up for Setback. I can't Setback anyways because I don't have the old Shadow, so yeah, it's a moot point. Let's see if he's running removal or if he's just running more Valkyries.
Spears!
Alright. More Valkyries it is. No blocks. Now, with a lot of flyers like this, we're super happy to be getting what we're getting out of this. I see a Shadow Sigil. That's absolutely a card that I need. I'll go ahead and attack for 3. Looks like he's going to buff it up. Yeah, and I made a slight mistake here in that I didn't play the Granite Waystone. That was very silly of me, so not having the jump kick there was kind of a big deal. That's a bit of a bummer. We do get the Shadow Sigil, though, so we get to Devastating Setback, kill probably 3 Valkyries, which would be really nice. Oh. Okay. Well then. That's a little sad. Well, setback here for sure. Arcano Stranger sets up. That attack with a jump kick doesn't quite do it. I need Shadowlands Tyrant, so I need a Shadow. And if I get a Shadow, then maybe I get out of this alive. Okay, a Primal's not bad. Still not the greatest thing in the world. I could potentially hold this 2-2 back, but mostly what I need is just a unit to jump kick to block Sindok. And if I can do that, great. If I can't, I'm super dead.
You've got a familiar face.
Okay, so we're silenced here. That's not too big a deal. This attack looks okay because we get to get the spark for Clan Hero. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then we can jump kick up and hit Sindok in the face, which is going to help us out a little bit. The main problem with that is that I don't have a blocker for the 3-2, but what are you going to do? Alright, this is a jump kick. Saves us from the ancient defenses, and doesn't get us a block on the Sindok, but at least gets us a block on the 3-2. Now the question is, do I let the 3-2 past? The answer is yes. We're just going to attack with our Clan Hero and get the Sindok. It's going to be a double Sindok game. You know how it goes. Alright, attack for 5. Our own Sindok. Sindok versus Sindok. Battle for the ages. I'm at much lower health here, though, so we gotta be pretty careful.
Look inward.
Tranquil Scholar could get any number of skills that could just devastate me. Overwhelm's pretty bad. It's not the worst. It's not the absolute stone cold worst. Alright, he wants to trade Sindok for Sindok, it looks like. That's fine. Currently the board favors him, especially with the Heroic Bravo. 4-4 Overwhelm Dude, that's a bit of a problem. Granite Waystone gives me a blocker, but I still take not quite exact lethal. I think we're actually still alive at the end of this turn. We just really need that Shadow for Shadowlands Tyrant. Huh, not as bad as I was expecting. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't attack with the 2-2. Maybe you thought there was a crackback? Ah, rats, don't have it. Okay, so one of the things that we've been having problems with is actually getting the Shadow for Shadowlands Tyrant, which, you know, is definitely a thing with 3-color decks, but we might actually want to, like, move into, like, a little bit more Shadow. Maybe cut the Snow Chucker and keep, like, moving down this sort of Shadow line, and just add one more Shadow Sigil and one less Primal. That way I can do a little bit more. Let me make sure that I didn't get any, like, cool fixers or anything like that. Heat Cleaver. Inspire Obedience is pretty cool. Xenon Fanatic is probably not important. Repulsive Gorger's neat. Finback Coma Nut's pretty good. There are cards we can play with. We got Praxis Banner and Roland's Choice, neither of which are going to come in. We got Topaz Drake and Xenon Banner, neither of which are going to come in, although Topaz Drake is not unreasonable. Topaz Drake is in fact a bomb. 2 common causes, Blister Sting Wasp. There's like a decent amount of Xenon support here. Man, I'm still just kind of tempted down the timeline, but I don't think we can do it. But anyways, cut a Shadow, cut a Snow Chucker, and see if there's anything early that we can actually run here. Threaten is not the card. Sleeping Drought is still potentially a card. Grenamender will give us some life gain, which is still kind of useful. Could be potentially the thing. Sabotage is good removal. Yeah, I think Sabotage maybe, and we'll just try to like sort of get the stage a little bit better prepped for our big bombs. Level 22, Baby 2. Weird. Alright, redraw there. I like that hand, but I don't like the power in it. This is a little bit better. We got Fire into Piercing Shot. We've got Charchain Flail on Extinguish. We have tons of removal, so we're going to be able to get a little bit done. Going to take 3 from this guy, which is not the greatest thing in the world, but the Piercing Shot's a decent response. Alright. Death to you. Before you get too big for your britches. Okay. Now, Rakano Stranger fixes red, which is good. It also fixes green, which is unimportant.
Take your positions, Valkyrie. We forge what we need.
And that'll allow us to use Charchain Flail to kill this Tandem Watchwing if we so need, although Jarl's Frostkin is also a perfectly acceptable answer. Okay, into the furnace is fine. Not really here nor there as far as things go. I think Nocturnal Observer is pretty worth playing here. And I'm actually going to draw a discard right now just to see if there's anything I particularly need. Stampede Driver, that is a unit and not a bad one, but I think Morningstar is maybe doing... Morningstar and Stampede Driver are doing very similar things right now. Let's discard the Morningstar and play the Shadow Sigil. We got Nightfall going, we've got Charchain Flail and Extinguish. I can make Nightfall happen for a very good long time.
Wing and blade.
Spears!
Alright, so this is going to be a Brash Shorthorn turn, followed by a Charchain Flail. Attack. Use my ability. And Backpacker's Machete, that's a dang good hit, but it's not the one I want. Let's ditch the... Stampede Driver's still pretty good. I don't want to ditch the Cobalt Waystone because I need to play it this turn, so maybe Backpacker's Machete takes a run. Basically what we really want to do here is extinguish the 3-3 before another Valkyrie comes down, which I think we have the opportunity to do because he didn't play a Watchwing into another Valkyrie.
My sword
Okay,
is yours.
well, that sucks. Really not a happy time. Okay, so we're going to have to go ahead and, I guess, extinguish this 1-2. And I'd really rather not do that. Let's draw a discard. Oh, I can't draw a discard until I extinguish. Okay. So extinguish the 1-2. That allows us to draw a discard again. Shadow Sigil's pretty cool, so we'll play that. Attack for 2. And now we're trying to Frostkin this 3-3 away, but another Valkyrie really screws us up here.
Move over. I'll handle this.
Steady Marshal, happily not anything.
I've got plenty of bullets.
Hellfire Oni, very, very scary indeed. Alright, Jarl Frostkin stuns the... I'm gonna say the Hellfire Oni. And we Dragon Breath there. Kill that. And if I wanted to the draw discard here, I think I'm gonna suffer, so let's not do that. Let's actually just hold out, and we're gonna play Skeeter with a Backpacker's Machete on it. Get ourselves moving.
Right on.
Okay, Rabble Rouser forcing a chump block from our Brash Shorthorn here. That's not too big a deal, but it does kind of suck because we are looking at basically a ton of different things all attacking us at once. Clan Hero seems like a pretty reasonable option here. I need more units. I would prefer to have more removal, but this can probably do the job. The main question is, where are we chump blocking? What are we chump blocking? Alright, attack for 3 here. Please don't get entrapment. Alright.
Don't waste my
I played into that, so that might be my fault. We'll see. He's got a lot of aggression here. An awful lot of aggression. So the thing to do is to kill basically everything except for the Steadfast Deputy. Oh no, he's got a fast spell too? That's probably game. Is it Torch for the win? Alchemical Blast for the win. Alright, well, not off to a good start. How's it going, Tempest? Hey, and thank you, Hand, for something. That's awesome. Alright. Well, that was rough. I misplayed that Skeeter. I still don't want Magma Javelin. What I'm seriously considering doing is ditching some of the red. Like, we have a really, really strong time base, including Frenzied Omnivore, Voyaging Lumen. Like, there's some dinosaurs in here I think we can work with. Sandspitter, Spiketail. I'd have to get rid of Sindok Rage Incarnate, but he's probably my least effective overall bomb. And these cards are sort of my lowest quality overall. So if I ditch all of that, then we gotta go Sandspitter, Blossom the Mist. Let's just play around with this a little bit, see how it feels. We knew we wanted to go into time eventually. We have Lucky Prospectors, which are pretty cool. We have Forgotten Find, which is not cool. Excavation Assistant, which is neat. There's a ton of early game, which was something we're desperately missing. There's Ancient Bauble, which is a cool relic that we can actually use to gain life. Scourstone Sentinel and Intriguing Ancient both have Bond with Sentinels, which I don't know if I want to do that yet, but that is potentially a thing. There are a decent amount of Sentinels here, but I don't know that that's actually going to happen. I think that our major bombs are actually not these guys, and we probably just cut them for Voyaging Lumen, Omnivore, all of that fun stuff, the dinosaurs. Viper's Bite is out, Sandspitter's in, Lost in the Mist is out, Hissing Spiketail is probably in, Archive Curator and Ageless Sentinel are fine. I'd say Ageless Sentinel is a little bit much. Lunar Magus, now that is a decent Nightfall card that actually gains us a lot of life, so I think that's probably worth it. Amber Acolyte and Trailmaker, Twilight Hunt, and Talir's Intervention. Talir's Intervention is just like a solid silence that also happens to be a good life gain card. And it bounces our Ridiculous Killer Explorers, which could be fun. How does this look? Clan Hero doesn't seem that splashable, that's correct. Neither is Mortar, unfortunately. Okay, so, yeah. That's 50 out of 45. And we're currently on Fire Sigils. We'd have to basically re-add power. Skycrag Banner and Stonescar Banner would go away. I would add in different power, which would be... We have Elysian and we have Xenon, as I recall, which would make our fixing a little better, which is the other thing that I would really, really be excited about. There is some Praxis here, so we could actually try to go for Time Fire if we wanted to splash. Roland's Choice is not where I want to be. How did I miss a Skycrag Banner? Oh, I cut it out, right. There's Bloodcall Invocation and Blister Sting Wasp and Bloodcall Invoker. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's actually a ton of stuff we can play with here in terms of like Life Force triggers. That's interesting. Okay. Rakano, Combre, Praxis, Repulsive Gorger and Inspire Obedience are both options later in the game. Headsman's Axe is interesting. Like, there's a little bit more we can play with if we have time in here. We could actually do Xenon Fanatic. We could do Sleeping Drought. We could do Grenamender. At that point, are we cutting the blue? Mistveil Drake is still the splash at the top. But the blue is now very, very splashy. I mean, it's already a pretty bad splash. We're pretty good where we're at. Okay. Roland's Choice is out. Currently at 49 out of 45, but we got like 11 power. So if I add the power in, 21, I want to go to probably... Oh, there's still some fire in here somewhere, so that's the first thing to gut. Champ of Fury. Found it. Seven, 4, 7. Cut one of those. Maybe cut two of those. 3 Primal Sources plus a Legion Banner. That'd give us Jump Kick, Dragon Breath, but probably not Stampede Driver. And now I have way too many good cards, so I have to cut some, which is good to know. Grenamender's really weird. I don't know if I really like it. If I wanted to go for like some Sacrifice Outlets, we do have a couple that we could play with, so I don't think that's in. Excavation Assistant is very powerful, especially if you can give it weapons, but I don't think that that's particularly what we're doing here. Skeeter is a good lifesteal thing. We do need lifesteal triggers for Hate Cleaver, so that's probably worth it. Sleeping Drought is still pretty tricky. I'm currently at 22 units, 2 attachments, 10 spells. The 2 attachments we need because they're both relics. Or are they both relics? We have Ancient Bauble What's the other one? Hate Cleaver, yeah. 2 relics is maybe not enough to support Lucky Prospectors, which is a real bummer because they're very powerful cards. Let's check our relics overall. See if there's anything else that could come in. Amaran Shovelers, no. Plenty of good red, plenty of good green. This is a big change up if we want to do this, but I think it's probably for the best. Four dinosaurs, plus Stampede Driver, which we currently aren't running. Which I'm much more willing to run considering we have a bunch of dinosaurs. Magus is Life's Gain, Amber Acolyte and Trailmaker are extremely good fixing. Delir's Intervention is probably a one of. Blister Sting is amazing, especially with Twilight Hunt. Xenon Fanatic is a kill con. Nocturnal Observer is a little bit in the middle. It's very good with all of the Nightfall stuff, but it doesn't actually do anything super crazy for the deck. I think it's probably still worth it. It'd be especially worth it if we had anything that gave us card advantage, but we don't have anything along those lines. So maybe this card goes, and that gets us to 20. Now we're on 9 spells. We have Blood Cult Invocation, which is a unit, I would say. Most of the time it's like a 2/2 for 1 or something like that. Hissing Spiketail is a life gain option. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. I'm tempted to play most of the Life Force. We have a really good Life Force base, and if we can keep that together, that really looks good for me. I think Flashy Duelist would probably come out. Brash Shorthorn is another card that's really not like doing an exceptional amount, but it is just a really good aggressive 1-drop. At this point, I no longer need to be quite as aggressive as I was before. So that's 18 units, 48 out of 45. We're at 19 power. We're going pretty deep on the 5s. Bloodcull Invoker and Bloodcull Invocation are both extremely strong cards. Amaran Archaeologist is probably too much. It does fix for Lumen and Mistveil Drake, but it's not doing much else after that, so I think we're probably good with that cut out. And let's look at our 4s, because we're fairly heavy on 4s now. Archive Curator, Xenon Fanatic, Sandspitter, which I think Sandspitter's probably worth it. Hate Cleaver, Extinguish, yeah, a lot of good strong stuff there. I'd say we're probably into that. Sleeping Drought seems like the card to cut out from the 2s. Sabotage would be the card to cut from the 1s. That looks like a deck. Alright, let's give this a shot. I do like Sleeping Drought with killer effects, especially killer dinos. Yeah, there's not a lot of 2-drops. We have one 1-drop. We could still lose out on tempo. But the curve's right. Okay, Amber Acolyte fixes for 4. That's good. We have an Archive Curator to silence that 1/2, which is pretty useful. I don't care about taking the 1 damage except for spark purposes.
Silently.
Now I'll have to make a decision of whether to silence the, grab the Primal Sigil here so Cobalt Waystone can be better set up. There's 2 options here. Silence the 1/1, which could get bigger, or silence the 1/2, which will definitely get bigger. Or silence the 2/2, which is just a giant pain in the butt. All of these cards are very annoying. I think overall the one that probably represents the biggest threat is actually going to be the
That's quite enough.
Unseen Agent. The 2/2 gives some debuffs. It's not like an amazingly good card, but it gets blocked by the Archive Curator okay, so we're probably fine on that front. I'm happy to trade with that. And if you want to buff up, you can do that. Or you could just lose your Sand Viper to the Amber Acolyte. Awesome. Currently no life gain available. Grenade's a little much.
Find solace in the darkness.
Play a Primal here. And if we can gain that life, boy howdy, Xenon Fanatic and Blood Call Invocation are both extremely good cards. No blocks. For the obvious reasons. Let's not get mortared here, or Magma Javelin, or whatever. Cool. I guess I'll discard a Time Sigil. Alright, I like Sand Spitter, but I like Blood Cult Invocation better.
We call the shadows to the light.
Play the time here. End my turn. And yeah, we got ourselves a 4/4 attacker, so that's a pretty good deal. Now every time there's Nightfall, we get a Life Force trigger. The Xenon Fanatic gets to go crazy, which is fun. There's a lot to play with. I kind of think I like blocking this at this point. If he kills the Xenon Fanatic, so be it. But otherwise, it's pretty worth it. If he decides to buff this with like a Hoof Slash or something, then he just kills the Magus. Sure. That thins my set up a little bit, but I don't want to rely too heavily on those Life Force triggers. Okay, that's a bit more annoying. Nobody loves that, but we'll live. I'm going to go ahead and attack for 4 here, because I can. I guess Sand Spitter would be in favor at this point. And that'll also buff up the Fishing Dinoc next turn, which allows me to Stampede Driver. Amethyst Ring's adorable. And I'm probably willing to attack for 4 here. If you want to kill the Sand Spitter, so be it. Can't Sleeping Drought me twice. Toctic is a Toctic. No big deal there. We're looking at an 8/8 Overwhelm, so we'll make it work. Alright, you big ol' pile of chump blockers.
You better get ready.
Let's discard Voyaging Lumen, since Blood Call Invoker has the cooler Life Force trigger. And let's swamp him. Sand Viper is a 1/2, not a great deal, but honestly I think pushing for damage here is the best way to go. Cool. I was expecting him to maybe block and try to live, but that worked out okay. Alright, North Star. Got a Blister Sting Wasp and Amber Acolyte. I think I'm pretty good with this. This looks like a good hand. Elysian Banner into Shadow into Blister Sting Wasp looks pretty good. And Blister Sting Wasp is just a really obnoxious card to start out with.
Take it, it's yours.
Humble Instructor is a pretty tricky one. Certainly not a card you want to mess with too much.
Pity would weaken us.
Alright, so here I think I just want to go Amber Acolyte. Let's grab a Shadow. Could attack for 1 here, but I think holding back and being defensive is better.
Be redeemed.
Mistveil Drake is great. let's play a Shadow here. And a Joral's Frost. Go ahead and see if we can either trade up with that Humble Instructor or just get some damage through. Either way. Hissing Spiketail's the dino friend. Might want to set back here. Like, I could set back to kill his stuff. Certainly an option. But the 3/3 is actually very dangerous if it's got any sort of special thing going on. So why don't we go with like a full attack. And I'm going to set back whatever's in your hand. Airless Kopesh is a really, really good 6, but Victor's Cry is just devastating. I think of the two, Victor's Cry. And that means that we don't get, like, you know, a full 8 points of healing from him twice. I think I can live with that. Talir's Intervention is great. I can totally work with that. Let's go for... I'm going to say Hissing Spiketail here. Go ahead and end my turn, and I guess we'll double block the 3/3 when it goes up in the air. Not my favorite way to deal with it, but means he doesn't gain a bunch of life. Yeah, that's like a 3 for 2. Not good, but we'll live. Okay, so now I've got a Time Sigil here. I can do Xenophonetic, but Archive Curator makes the most sense. I would say probably on the Deadly unit.
That's quite enough.
Mistveil Drake is just about to pop. A lot to love about that. Hey, there we go. Let's see if there's a pause. No pause. Got myself a 6/6 Aegis, so I think we're well on the way.
You messed with the wrong gal.
Copperhelm Marshal is a card that he can actually do some stuff with, so let's think about that. We're going to go ahead and use Frenzied Omnivore, discard the Blood Call Invocation. Give this killer, and I could eat the 3/3 right away, which is certainly not a bad idea, or I could eat this Humble Instructor and start sort of beefing up. I think the beef up plan is probably the best plan. Cool. Yeah, we have a lot of really strong cards here. Oh, Subvert. I wish I had that in my list.